Hello everyone, it's your sister Roland, and all I need is a few minutes to talk about this case coming out of Cheltenham Township, Pennsylvania. So we have this young lady pictured here on my screen. Her name is Rachel Elizabeth King. She was 35 years old. She was a mother, she was a daughter, she was a sister, she was a friend, she was a teacher. She was a lot of things to a lot of people. And I've done different stories. I haven't done a lot of stories, but I've done a good amount of stories. But this story really touched me. Probably not going to do a lot of commentary because I don't think anybody who have heard about this story for it not to, it does something to you. And then when I watched the funeral, you see, I can't even get through it. This was a very sad story. And this young lady did not deserve what happened to her. So through news reports and through the sentiments of her family members and her friends, we are going to learn about the life of Rachel Elizabeth King.
An adored local teacher. She was shot and killed while sitting at a Dunkin' drive-thru in Cheltenham. To add to this pain, her young son was in the back seat when she was murdered. We are now hearing from her family about this senseless crime. Action News reporter Annie McCormick, she's live for us in Cheltenham with this family's message. Annie.
Yeah, and great. Tonight, authorities have not announced any arrests in this case. We did speak to a family member of the victim tonight who says right now they are focusing their attention on her 11-year-old son who witnessed the crime.
This was like her favorite time, like getting into spring, the summer, because then she could wear her bright colors. She just was bright. Like every flower I see is a hot pink or orange, just makes me think of her.
Alan King is talking about his 35-year-old sister Rachel, who was killed Tuesday morning as she waited in her car at this Cheltenham Dunkin' drive-thru. And what authorities are calling a targeted attack. They say the gunman exited this vehicle and fired several shots into Rachel's car, killing her. Her 11-year-old son was in the back seat. He wasn't physically injured. He's now surrounded by family.
Getting him the help he needs, getting him in front of a trauma counselor, a child psychiatrist. I can't imagine going through his head.
It will be a long road for Rachel's son. The family is grateful for the support in the form of donations through a GoFundMe page. King was a beloved teacher at Mastery Charter School's Grover Cleveland campus in Tioga Nicetown. Staff and students there today held a ceremony for her and invited her family.
It was really nice, and I think it was as bright and beautiful as my sister was.
Now King says he is focused on healing, letting the authorities complete their investigation, and he hopes those committing gun violence put the guns down.
I hope people tell people that they love them, because I think love's the only thing that's going to fix that.
As you may remember, shot and killed Rachel King while she was in a drive-through lane. Her young son in the car with her. Let's listen into the update. This is Kevin Steele.
And speak at the end of my remarks is Reverend King and Carol King. They are the parents of Rachel King. So I'm here this morning with all these folks to talk about Rachel King and the horrific targeted murder of her on April 11th that took her life. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning when a devoted single mother, was just stopping off at Dunkin' Donuts on the way to her 11-year-old son's violin practice. She was gunned down, and the killer just drove away. Rachel was beloved by so many. Her grieving parents who have joined us, brother, cousins, many friends, and all the students and former students at the Grover Cleveland Mastery Charter School in Philadelphia, where Rachel taught for 10 years. Today is when justice begins for Rachel. Today, we are here to announce the arrests of two people responsible for the planning and executing of this terrible, unfathomable murder of an innocent person. And let me emphasize that, an innocent person. We believe the shooter didn't even know Rachel, and the mastermind of the plot didn't know her either. Yet she was filled with enough hatred to work to have Rachel killed. Here are the defendants. Julie Jean of Elkins Park, and Al-Hakim, or Zaki Al-Hakim of Philadelphia. The defendants. They've been charged with first-degree murder, third-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and related charges. They're both now behind bars. Jean at the Montgomery County Correctional Facility, and Al-Hakim behind bars in Philadelphia, under arrest since late in the day of April 11th, the day he shot Rachel King multiple times to kill her. He will be arraigned tomorrow from the Philadelphia facility. All right, the facts of this case and how these two defendants conspired and planned for nearly 2 months to kill Rachel King is truly disturbing. It was a cold-blooded killing, a targeted murder of an innocent person planned by these two defendants and horrifically carried out in front of King's son. I must emphasize the excellent investigation by the Cheltenham Township Police and the Montgomery County detectives who uncovered this conspiracy bit by bit, piecing this puzzle together until we have the full picture of what was behind this murder plot. Rachel King was in a long-time relationship with a man named William Hayes, who it turned out had had an affair sometime last year with Julie Jean. But he broke it off, and he and Rachel had worked out to continue their relationship. But Jean harassed both Hayes and the victim, watching them, texting them, calling so much that Hayes actually sought court relief, filing and receiving a protection from abuse order on Julie Jean last December, and that was before Judge Dan Clifford here in Montgomery County. Detectives found that in mid-February, the two defendants began communicating by cell phone. Jean knew Al-Hakim, or Zah, in her contacts through the father of her children, who was Al-Hakim's cousin. On February 20th, Al-Hakim saved this Google image to his photos. It's the apartment complex where Rachel and her son lived, with a pin dropped on Rachel's exact apartment and a red arrow showing the route to take to get to the residence. It was a route that Al-Hakim would take a number of times, as we recovered video surveillance that showed Al-Hakim traveled a number of times in the days leading up to the murder after he obtained a Mercury Sable, which he was driving when he killed Rachel. But I'll talk about that a little bit in a moment. So 6 days after the map is saved to Al-Hakim's phone, cell phone location data and text messages show that the two defendants met up in Philadelphia. And detectives located a single photo of the victim. Now, this is important because Rachel King being displayed on a screen, which through some expert analysis determined that's Julie Jean's cell phone. She's holding up a picture of the victim, Rachel King, that Al-Hakim takes a picture of. Her hand, her phone, showing the victim. This photo was taken at 2:17 p.m. and the screen capture was saved at 2:21 when both of the defendants were together in this display of a number of photos of Rachel. The defendants were also connected through a silver Mercury Sable, and I'll turn to that. Many of you saw this because this is the photo that we put out after the killing of Rachel. And this was driven by the defendant as he followed Rachel from her residence to the Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru, where he exited the vehicle and shot her multiple times. And he left behind 6 9mm fired cartridge casings, or FCCs. This silvery Mercury Sable was purchased on March 30th, less than 2 weeks before the murder, when Al Hakim and Jean went to the Philadelphia car dealer together. The vehicle was sold for $1,500 and bought in Julie Jean's name, and then Al Hakim is using it. On April 7th, the same silver Mercury Sable was captured on surveillance video outside a beer store at 5100 North Broad Street, where the victim, James Farrell, was fatally shot multiple times by a man matching Al Hakim's description. So the Philadelphia murder occurs on the 7th of April. And in that case, the shooter, the defendant, fled in a silver Mercury Sable with a sunroof. And there were 11 9mm fired casings, or FCCs, that were recovered from that murder scene. So our homicide scene and the Philadelphia homicide scene, both the evidence from each of those was entered into our newly acquired NIBIN machine. And as some of you know, because I think a number of you were there when we did the press conference on it, is National Integrated Ballistics Information Network. When I stood with a number of the district attorneys, as well as our high-intensity drug trafficking director in ATF, and what this machine does is it's able to compare a fingerprint or unique markings on these FCCs, or the fired casings, to all 6 million FCCs from gun crimes that are stored in this database. Now, this is significant because it's, we have April 7th and we have April 11th. And they're a match. The match was confirmed by physical examination of the FCCs by firearms and ballistics experts from our detective bureau. Further, the firearms and ballistics expert found evidence that the FCCs would be consistent with having come from a privately made firearm, commonly known as a ghost gun. Guess what? We didn't recover the gun, but we recovered a photo that our experts say, and this photo was on Al Kahim's cell phone and was taken on March 16, 2023. So it's consistent with the gun that was used in both murders. So we announced the acquisition of the NIBIN machine, and a lot of you asked the question on whether we had solved the case with us. The answer is yes. And this is the first significant match that has come from this new NIBIN system that we have. And it is very significant. And it proves that this machine can help us solve gun crimes and homicides, and will help us make a difference in fighting violence in our communities. So Al Hakim is now facing 2 sets of homicide charges here in Montgomery County and in Philadelphia. After we put that photo out of the Mercury Sable shortly after Rachel's killing, Philadelphia police on patrol spotted the vehicle and in the early evening attempted to pull it over. Al Hakim took off at a high rate of speed, stopping only when he crashed into a fence. He was charged with the Philadelphia murder on the evening of April 11th and has been locked up since. That provided us with some time to find out what was behind this murder, and find out of what was behind Rachel's killing. Julie Jean was questioned a first time by detectives on April 12th. And significantly, 13 minutes before meeting with our detectives, Jean deleted 787 text messages. Many of those communications were able to be recovered, including the last message that Jean sent to Al Hakim via Cash App. And that was at 12:11 p.m., less than 5 hours after Rachel's killing. And it was a payment of $5 with an emoji message that we interpreted to mean link up, message me, no phones, that's it. I've seen a lot of horrible and even horrific homicides, evil homicides, in my nearly 30 years of doing this as a prosecutor. And suffice it to say, I'm struggling with this one, where a truly innocent woman is targeted in a long planned murder, all because of an ended affair. It's hard to come to grips with, but what I will say is that I will be prosecuting this case personally, along with Caroline Goldstein, are going to work really, really hard to obtain justice for Rachel King.
Rachel had a zest for life. Her joy was infectious and her presence undeniable. If you didn't see her coming, you heard her coming. As sweet and as kind as Rachel was, she possessed a boldness and a strength within her that she didn't hesitate to express, especially when it came to matters of right and wrong. She would often start off with, "I'm not trying to be funny, I'm not trying to be rude, but right is right and wrong is wrong. Is it not, Rob?" Rachel had a righteous indignation that would rise up in her to defend her child or her many children of the heart, her students. She loved fiercely and with all of her heart. If you ever have been loved by Rachel, you will never forget it. I'm thankful that I never missed the opportunity to tell her that she was an amazingly dedicated mom. Rachel's life was based on the welfare and joy of Jalen. There is nothing she wouldn't do for her baby boy. I will miss our 2 to 3 calls a day, our sister outings with Lauren and Dana. I will miss the vibrancy she brought to all of our lives. Rachel and I were going to start school next month to obtain our principal certifications. Our last conversation the night before was about preparing for school. We were close friends, confidants, sisters, educators. I will miss my beautiful, courageous supermom and teacher. While her body will do what bodies do, we believe her spirit lives. Rachel is in the presence of the Father. One day, our corrupted bodies will be transformed, reconciled to our spirit, and we will meet again.
Moment that I met Rachel many years ago when I first became a principal, she is a person who I immediately was drawn to. She loved our kids in a way that we couldn't teach that. You couldn't coach it. She was someone who sold into our school community, not just the people in her classroom, but she was the person who came to me and said, like, we need to do this, we need to do that, and here is why. And she took the lead along with the ladies of the events team, Lauren and Araba, and they just did anything to make sure that our kids had what they need. Personally, in Rachel's classroom, she was a person who set goals, and every goal that she set, she accomplished. Point blank, period.
I'm going to share the last message that she sent me, and it was a song entitled Enough. Don't let anybody tell you that you're not great or that you're not fearfully and wonderfully made. You are special, a designer's original. It doesn't matter what they say or what they do. All that matters is how you feel about you. You're amazing the moment that you think so. So don't you dare say that it's over until God says that it's done. You still have a life to live. You still have a race to run. And with each step, keep moving forward, and He'll be there for everyone. And whatever you do, don't forget, you have enough. gave you enough. You are enough, and you will get through this. You have enough. God gave you enough, and you are enough. Whoa.
She would always say to me this here. Hey, Maddie. No matter when I saw Rachel, that was the first thing. It was, hey, Maddie, whether it was a smile, sad, frustrated, anything. It was just the first thing she would say to me was, hey, Maddie. And the craziest thing is my response was always the same tone, hey, Rach. Because for me, it was just like that was our bond, that was our connection. And as I stand here and remember Rachel, the thing that's just been on my heart and mind this past week, 11 days, to let people know is that to know Rachel is to love Rachel. Rachel loved on everyone she encountered, was always being encouraging towards people and just looking to uplift them and put them in better spirits, in better moods, just to kind of make them feel better. Rachel never was one to kind of just let you sit there and sulk without at least checking on you. So as I sit here and I see all these photos of Rachel and I see everyone in here, and just seeing how loved Rachel was, for me, that's what's going to help carry me through the rest of my days.
So here's the thing about Rachel, and I think lots of us have Rachelisms, if you will. Rachel will call me and she'd do the girl, and I'm like, okay, like what's up? And then she'd do the, you ready for this? And I just want you to know, Rachel, we were not ready for this. And then she would tell me about whatever it was, whether it was a movie, whether it was a date, food she made, and she was like, girl, and I was like, it was good. She'd be like, so good, right? And I love that about her. But what I think I loved deeply about Rachel is I think between the two of us, we were both really good at when things were getting really hard, being able to call each other and just be like, look, I don't know what this is or why this is. And while we would talk about what was hard or all of the ungood, Rachel was really good at grounding us back in what was good, right? And so despite whatever we were talking about, whatever was challenging or hard, for about a year and a half, Matthew, Rachel, and I would pray together once a week. We'd start with praises, and then we'd talk about our requests, and then we would pray. And there would definitely be times when Rachel was just like, all of these things are going on, especially after the car accident she was in. And then she would bring it back to you, but you know what? Still got a roof over my head. You know what? Jalen's good. He's doing great in school. She was always able to come back to the good.
While Rachel, and by the way, those last three that you heard from were two of her three brothers and her sister. While Rachel was not famous, Rachel was great. Don't get it twisted. My daughter was great. And I would say that even if she were not my daughter. I've often said I don't know what it is that they got, meaning our children, she and her siblings, what they got out of this deal. But I know I came away the winner. Okay, I don't know what they got, but I won big time. Just want to share something with you briefly. Rachel was more than her swag, her drip, her drag, more than the quick-witted quips that spilled from her lips. Rachel was my daughter, and I loved her. She was more than the cascade of honey-bronzed braids that fell below her shoulders, making her look younger, not older, than the 35 years we were blessed to behold her. Rachel was my daughter, and I loved her. Rachel was many things. To Jalen, a jewel of a mom, precious and rare. To her students, a teacher extraordinaire who dared to care. And in all of this, Rachel was my daughter, and I loved her. I have but one request to make, that as you leave here today, that you would remember not how how Rachel left, but remember how Rachel lived, how she loved, how she laughed, how she learned, and Lord knows how she was loud.
I think this is one of the hardest walks anybody is going to have to do in life. When you're making that walk to see a loved one, to see a sister, to see a friend, to see a daughter, to see a son, to see a niece, your cousin, your mother, father, grandmother, granddaughter. Nothing can prepare you for that walk. And some I've seen that this is the moment when it gets real, when the person realizes, wow, this person is truly, truly gone, and all I have is memories. This is one of the hardest walks that people have to do. And when you have to look at the person that you love in this casket, look at her son. This is her son. And remember, he was in the car when this happened. And this is probably from when the time that happened, this is when he was seeing her again. And seeing her in the casket. That's not easy at all. That's not easy, period. Nothing can prepare you for this walk. So you heard from her loved ones of the impact that she had on their lives and other people's lives, and from the news reports of how she left this earth, which she did not deserve, period. And there's a lot of talk about the boyfriend and stuff like that. All this happened because he decided to step out. All of this did not only happen. That was a factor. That was definitely a factor. But at the end of the day, it was still Julie Jean who became so obsessed. And I believe she was stalking this lady. She's probably stalking her social media pages, stalking her home, because in the news report, she put the pin on the map on the exact location of this lady's apartment. So she was stalking her. She became obsessed with her because this was the reason why this man would not come back to her. Not knowing that maybe he just, in the moment, whatever reason he did, he stepped out. But now he realizes that he wants to be with Rachel. And trust me, this man is beating himself up. The guilt alone is tearing him up inside to know that he made a choice to cheat in the relationship, and that was a factor that caused her to be taken out of this world. That is a factor that now her son his mother is no longer here. So that alone is killing him on the inside. No matter what, there's nothing we could say that's going to make him feel even more guilty. He's already feeling guilty. The guilt alone. But at the end of the day, it's not only him. There's a factor. And at the end of the day, remember, she forgave him. She decided to forgive him. Maybe he showed that he was going to change. And then even when she was harassing them, he went and get whatever order of protections that he needed from the court. But she was not after him. She was after Rachel, because that was the problem. And she needed to take out the problem. She probably thinking she's going to take it out. Nobody's ever going to know. And then she's going to live happily ever after with Mr. Hayes, which that did not happen because she chose a hitman that's unhinged, is very violent. She bought. I'm sure she specifically bought him the car to do whatever he needed to do to Rachel. But he also took out another young man's life, I believe 5 days prior, James Farrell. And that was one of the reasons why they got him so quickly. Had he not done that, it's not like they would not have solved it, but it might have taken a while. So she left. So this happened in April, and before the month of April was done, they got him, and they got this young lady. That will never ever bring her back. That will never ever bring her back. She's gone forever. But she can live in the hearts of her loved ones, and they can continue the legacy that she started. She loved teaching. She loved being educated. She loved her son. You can tell that was her pride and joy. And that's how people can continue her legacy. And then pray for her son. I believe his name is Jalen. Pray for him. Always keep him in your prayer. You might not be able to pray for him every day, but at least here and there, when you think about this case, when you think about this little boy, if somebody has a name similar to him, Jalen, that's his name, pray for him, because we don't even know the long-term effects of sitting there and witnessing his mother being gunned down, her losing her life, and him not being able to do nothing. And she was on her way to drop him off to the violin, and this was already planned. There's really nothing that could have been done, whether they had did it at the drive-through Dunkin' Donuts or when she went to drop him off at the violin. This man had already decided today was the day that he was going to do it. So, because, little kids, they might think, oh, maybe if I didn't tell my mom to go to Dunkin' Donuts, she would still be here. But they had already planned to take her out. This was planned, and there was nothing that was going to stop this from being executed. And it did happen. So, because he stalked this lady for several days, waiting for an opportune moment to do what he had to do. So whether she went to Dunkin' Donuts, didn't go to Dunkin' Donuts, no matter what, he was one day, he was just waiting for that time, and he took that opportunity. It's very sad and unfortunate that Rachel had to lose her life in this manner. She had so much life ahead, so much promise, so much things that she could have accomplished. But now, her loved ones have that task to carry on, and they have a young man to raise. Anyway, that's all I had to say on this case and the situation. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.